Hey, good morning, friends. Today, my friends, is Monday, October the 20th, 2025, and the time now is 7:52 a.m. So, friends, I want to talk about Belgium, and I want to talk briefly about the situation relating to an Indian national by the name of Mehul Choksi or Mehul Choksi or whatsoever, however the name is. Now, this is an issue, a case relating to international relations, diplomacy, and the various interaction or relationship with countries around the world. Mehul Choksi is an Indian who had been on the run, or at least since he was arrested in April of this year, 2025. He had been in Europe, and his nephew had also been in the United Kingdom. Now, friends, the story goes that Mehul Choksi and his nephew were engaged in a fraud in India where the banks which they had been interacting with, the banks basically lost some money. And it is said that about 13 crore or so, 13,000 crore or so was basically lost, or that's what they apparently had fraud the banks on. So the story goes that after having frauded the bank, Mehul Choksi left India and also his nephew left India. Mehul basically went to the Caribbean and he had visited several countries in the Caribbean. It is said that he had also claimed citizenship of one of the Caribbean countries, which I do not recall the name as of now. Now, it is an interesting thing where India had been trying to get this man in Belgium. India had been trying to get him extradited from Belgium. And it is also the same thing for his nephew, who India is trying to get extradited from the United Kingdom. Now, for Mehul, his story is very interesting. It is also said that he is a jeweler, so he engaged in the sale or the purchase of jewelry and so on. And he engaged in a fraud with several banks in India. Now, India had been arguing that, according to the United Nations Convention, Mehul had engaged in fraud, in corruption activity within a country, within India. And according to the UN Convention, fraud and corruption is against the law, all international law in various countries. So India is basically, or had been using the UN Convention rules in the UN Convention that stipulate or that basically outlaw international corruption. Whether we are talking about a person engaging in corruption within a country and or running to another country. Now, friends, the country or countries that is or that are the victim or victims of the corruption or the fraud can basically request extradition of the criminal to basically go through the prosecution or basically to face punishment. So India has been using UN Convention laws against corruption and fraud as a means to basically get Mehul Choksi extradited back to India. And as of now, one Belgian court had basically approved the case for India, basically approved India's request to get Mehul transported or extradited back to India. Now, this is a very interesting thing, even though we are talking about a criminal from India, or even though this story is about one person, a citizen or a criminal from one country, in this case India, running to another country, Belgium, to seek refuge, basically to escape the punishment of his crime. Even though this is largely about India, it is also interesting. It shows the international commitment with which Belgium, as of now, is basically honoring. And friends, now we have a court in Belgium, in Antwerp, basically approving India's request for Mehul Choksi to be extradited to India. It is said that other courts could follow suit as well. So basically, it is certain that Mehul will be extradited to India. In this case, India has succeeded in basically getting its request for a criminal to be returned to India so that the criminal can face prosecution. But the fact that Belgium is honoring its commitment, it's very remarkable because as of now, given what is happening in the world today, especially given the war in Ukraine, a war which the entire global West has been basically bombarding countries around the world with a bunch of accusation or allegation of aiding the war, aiding Russia's war against Ukraine or whatsoever, which basically is Western witch hunt. The fact that India, a country that the West had criticized so much and so long since the war in Ukraine started, the fact that Belgium will basically approve the extradition of an Indian criminal. It is remarkable, it is interesting. In this case, my question is, what deal or deals had been signed between India and Belgium, or India and the rest of the global West, that basically resulting in Belgium extraditing an Indian criminal back to India? It is very interesting. Perhaps it could be that there had been deals, agreements between Belgium and India, or Belgium and the rest of the West against India or with India to basically have Mehul Choksi be extradited by India. So in this case, my question is, what agreement had been made between India and Belgium and India and the global West? But also, perhaps this could be a reality that India is no longer a country to play with. India is a large country in terms of landmass and population. It is one of the G20 countries, one of the economically stronger countries in the world, of about 190 to 193 countries to over 200 countries and territories around the world. So perhaps what we could be seeing, not just India and Belgium engaging in an agreement, but India has become stronger enough to make its case in the international arena, on the international stage, using international law or international laws, arguing its case eloquently, professionally, to the point where a Belgian court can no longer deny or has no option but to grant India's request, basically approve the request for Mehul Choksi to be extradited to India. But what is being said is that India had made a promise that Mehul Choksi will not just be put in any ordinary prison. He will be placed in a special prison where he's going to have access to the various needs for his human rights, whether we are talking about clean air, clean water, okay, unpolluted water. He is going to be able to exercise every day, and so on and so on and so on. So this is a very interesting thing. As much as India is a stronger country now, India is not the India of the 1990s, 1980s, 1970s, and 60s. India is strong enough to challenge other countries in the world, whether we are talking about the richer or powerful countries or medium countries such as Belgium. But the fact that Belgium can grant India's request to get a criminal, an Indian criminal who engaged in a fraud in India, it also shows a commitment of Belgium, or Belgium's commitment to international law, international relations, and so on and so on. Now, friends, please tell me what you think, and I really want to know what you think. However, my friends, I am going to end here. I want to thank you for being a member of the Echoing Voice community, my friends. But most especially and most importantly, or most important, friends, I want to thank you a lot for watching the Echoing Voice. Peace, my friends. Peace.